For the first Distinguished Alumni Award for Academia and Government, we're traveling back in time. It's the fall of 1971. The Vietnam War still smolders and social unrest was still filling, though, many streets. The French Connection is the latest Hollywood blockbuster, and a bombastic patriarch named Archie Bunker rails against change on the #1 television show. Now, you millennials in the audience, you can Google that one later. And Google Meathead, and you'll see the whole thing. It's hilarious. But for the first time after more than a century, undergrad women sit in Stevens classrooms. Yes. Dr. Martha Connolly was one of those pioneering women. She had an interest in science, joined the Society of Underwater Engineers, served as a resident advisor, played clarinet in the concert band, and sang in the Glee Club. Is that all? It's the typical stuff of a Stevens student, obviously. And yet women like Martha needed to prove that they belonged at Castle Point in ways that many of their male classmates simply never had to consider. And those young women did prove it, indeed. Martha was one of 13 who graduated 4 years later in 1975 in a class of 227. For those of you who haven't already counted in your heads, that's a male to female ratio of 16-1. So she was brave. Later, Martha proved she belonged again, becoming the first woman to earn a doctorate from the bioengineering program at Johns Hopkins. And she's belonged ever since, becoming a leader in her field. As the director of MTech Baltimore initiative of the University of Maryland, Martha fosters collaboration and entrepreneurship among faculty, students, industry partners, efforts that have established bioengineering as a force in the Maryland economy. She has founded companies. She's taught students. She's worked on funded research from the National Institutes of Health and American Lung Association, and she has written 37 peer-reviewed publications. Yeah, that's a lot of writing. And what does she do in her spare time? Martha is an engaged alumnus. She is a member of the Edwin A. Stevens Giving Society, and she is active in the regional Washington, D.C. Alumni Club. And just a few days ago, she shared her life story with over 100 female students, alumni, and faculty on a guest panel celebrating women in leadership at Stevens. Martha's story is one of emergence. She emerged as a brilliant young scientist just as women were emerging, not only at Stevens, but in many other places. She set the stage for emerging companies in an emerging biomedical industry. As an educator, she has shaped countless young minds who are emerging in their own right. In honor of that emergence, let us bestow the 2017 Distinguished Alumni Award for Academia and Government to Dr. Martha Connolly. Martha?
Well, thank you, Chris, for making me sound so very old. I really appreciate that. The nice thing about being in the first class of women at Stevens is that no matter how many events I go to, I'm always the oldest undergraduate that comes out to them. And that's a distinction I hope to hold for a long time. However, tonight I'm joined by another one, Milena Aldecoa, whose class is 75, is right over here, came with me today. Has a wonderful story, immigrated from Cuba at age 14, went to Hoboken High, came to Stevens, and is now a chemical engineer. So thank you for coming. Also, I really appreciate her coming. My 3 wonderful daughters, 2 of them are here tonight, Claire and Maggie. Thank you for coming. You guys are my best accomplishments, of course, all of you. Being in the first class of Stevens women really carried a lot of, it was really very rewarding, very challenging. It was quite an honor and a distinction, but it also carried a responsibility, and that was to, in some small way, if we could, pave the way to the women that came after us and continue to come after us at Stevens, and I hope we've, in some small way, done that. So thank you very much for this honor.